Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our onX Hunt Deep Dive Masterclass tonight, where we're talking all things content organization. If you haven't been to one of our deep dive classes before, the idea is that these kind of build on our monthly 101 classes. So we're going a little bit deeper into the app and focusing on one specific aspect of the app. So we're going to be kind of very narrow in our focus here, but we're going to go much more deep than we do in some of our other classes. We're going to give it that's the wrong button. We're going to give it just a couple of minutes to get everybody, time to get situated and get logged in. So while we're doing that, just a couple housekeeping things. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A feature down below. We'll take time to answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the class. We are going to try to answer, just questions pertaining to the topic at hand here. So talking about your markups, your content, how best to organize them, things like that. The chat is also there. That's just a great place to chime in and let folks know where you're tuning in from and what you got going on. Your audio and video are turned off, so no worries if you have any noise in the background. We can't see or hear you. This class is being recorded. So we will send an email out to everybody tomorrow evening. You'll get one about this time tomorrow. You'll get an email with the recording from the class. So if you want to go back and review anything or send it to a buddy who couldn't make it or anything like that, we'll send you the link to the YouTube video so that you can go back and rewatch it if you'd like. We are also doing a giveaway. Towards the end of the class, I'll post a link in the chat. We're giving away some t-shirts. So stick around towards the end of class for that to get entered to win that. And with that, looks like we got quite a few folks signed in here. So a couple of things we're going to be talking about. First, we're going to talk about how to use customization of markups to help yourself stay organized. And when I say markups, what I'm talking about are waypoints, the line distance tool, the area shape tool, and even the tracker. We're going to primarily focus on waypoints today because that is what is used the most by most folks. But any of the customization that I talk about is going to apply to waypoints, also to areas, to lines, and to saved tracks. We're going to get into using folders, how to add markups to folders, how to create folders, and then how to use them once you have multiple folders created. We're going to talk a little bit about creating properties, which are kind of similar to a folder, and then we'll take some time for Q&A and giveaway. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my map here. So give me one moment while I stop sharing and get pulled over to that. So I'm going to start with the onX Hunt web map here, just for ease of demonstration. Everything I'm showing here can be done on your mobile app as well. So if you're following along on your phone or on a tablet, everything's applicable. It looks a little bit different on web map. I will jump over to my tablet here in a few minutes to kind of demonstrate some things over there. But for right now, this is the web map. You can see I've got some waypoints saved on my map here. This is just, I randomly placed some waypoints here on the map as if I were bear hunting in this area. I haven't actually bear hunted in this area, so I'm not, trying to hotspot or anything like that. But just for demonstration purposes, I've placed a handful of waypoints on my map here. So the first thing you notice is all of these waypoints have colors that are different than the default. So if I place just a default waypoint on my map and I just hit save, you'll notice it's kind of our standard orange or red X. It's got the X icon here, and there's no real information in the name besides the date and time that I placed it, as well as the coordinates here. So this is what most people use when they place waypoints. Okay, and I'm going to really actually encourage you to put some more effort into customizing your waypoints. That's the first step to really being organized in the app. It does take some time, but the time savings you're going to have on the back end of this it's gonna repay you tenfold, if not more. Okay, so let's say I was scouting this area and maybe I saw a bear walking along this road or something like that, or I was actually walking along this old trail here and let's say I saw some bear scat right here. Next year, let's say it's May 2025 and I'm getting geared up to go out for a bear hunt and I'm looking at my bear waypoints. I don't know what this red X is, right? I've got a pretty good memory, but not that good, especially once I have, I think on my personal onX account, I have something like 1,600 waypoints. Hard to keep all of those straight, right? So I've got this red X here. Let's say I saw some bear scat. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna rename it bear scat. Next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use the proper icon for scat. And then I'm gonna choose a color. And to me, the icon and the color are really the big time savers because I can kind of tell at a glance what I'm looking at here. I'm gonna make this one blue because blue is my color for bears. Whatever color you want to use doesn't really matter, but you need to have some sort of a system for your colors. Couple different ways to do that, okay? What I do personally is each one of my different species that I hunt is a certain color. Blessed to live in Western Montana. We can hunt, turkeys and bears in the spring. In the fall, I chase upland birds, waterfowl, deer, elk, and every once in a while I draw a pronghorn tag, okay? So I choose a different color for each of those species. So bear is blue, waterfowl might be green, upland might be yellow. Okay, whatever makes sense to you. Doesn't really matter as long as you kind of stick with the system. The other thing you could do is you could make specific types of waypoints different colors. So I could say confirmed places I have been, or confirmed, I've seen a bear here. These are all going to be blue. Places I want to check out are going to be this purple color. Okay, so then I know I haven't seen a bear here, but this is a place I should go look for bears. I haven't glassed from this spot, but this is a place I should glass because it's pink. The blue one, I have glassed there. I named it glassing, okay? This black one, maybe that's a spot that I've been to that I shouldn't go back. Just as valuable as knowing where the good spots are is knowing where the bad spots are so that I don't waste time going back there. Okay, so that's a couple different ways that you can colorize your waypoints so that at a glance you can kind of tell what I'm looking at here. A very popular color system for folks at the office is to do everything by year. So they will use, for 2024, a lot of people will say, this is my color for everything. And then they rely on these different icons to let them know what they're looking at, right? So they'll say, all of my colors for 2024 are purple. Well, then how do I know the difference between my elk and my bear spots? It's because I'm gonna have the different icons there, right? And then that's very nice, especially if you're typically hunting the same area year after year, or if you're, kind of a dyed-in-the-wool, you hunt whitetails, and that's what you hunt, you're not chasing other species, you're not gonna use the same coloration system that Jack uses for, the 5 different species that he hunts. You might say, all right, I'm hunting the farm, all my whitetail icons for 2024 are gonna be red, then in 2025, I'm gonna make them yellow. 2026, they're gonna be green, right? And then you can see that change over time. That's a very useful coloration system as well to help you understand, man, I had a lot of rubs in this area last year, this year they're over here, next year they're over there, or maybe they're always in the same spot, right? It's all useful information. So changing the color, changing the icon, very important. I have an example over here. This is just a random deer spot I scouted. I might say, like I said, all my deer icons are one color. I've changed the icon so I know this is a tree where I saddle hunt. This is where I have a ground blind set up. I saw a rub and a scrape close by while I was scouting. Maybe I want to put a tree stand up somewhere. Maybe I find a nice trail and I want to put a tree there. I'm going to mark a waypoint and I'm going to make it the ladder stand. I'm just going to name it Jack's ladder stand. Okay, so that's kind of the first step in getting organized. You're placing waypoints, you're placing markups. Again, you can do this with area shapes and line tools. You can change the color. You can name them if you're utilizing those markups. Recommend you kind of follow the same color coding system that you set up. The next step, and this is really the biggie, this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the presentation, is using folders. If I go over to my content, that's on the left here. If you're in mobile, it's going to be down along the bottom of your screen. We'll say my content. When I open it up, I have 3 folders that I've created. If you haven't created any folders, you can just click this black button that says add folder, and it'll ask you to put a name in there. I'm not going to do that right now because I already have some made. Folders, very similar to colorization. Doesn't really matter what system you use for them as long as it makes sense to you. So you might do like I have here, and you might have them broken out by species. You might have a bear folder, a deer folder, a turkey folder, waterfowl folder, etc. You might break them out by hunting area. Say you're a white-tailed deer hunter, but you hunt a bunch of different properties. You might have, Joe's farm, and you might have Uncle Jim's 40, whatever, your different areas. You might have a state WMA that you hunt quite a bit. You might make that a folder so that you can easily keep those different properties separate. You might just say, nope, I want them all in my deer folder. Okay, doesn't matter as long as you kind of stick with your system. So I have these 4 waypoints, the 4 that I had on here previously in this folder. I have them all marked here, right? You'll notice this ladder stand isn't in there. I can add it to a folder. So all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click on this waypoint. You can see it's highlighted now. I'm gonna go over to my menu. I'm gonna go down to add to folder. I click on that. I'm gonna click add to folder one more time. I'm going to add that to my deer folder. Now it's in there. So when I go back to my content, I see deer has 5 items in it. I click on the folder. It's going to show me all of those waypoints there. So there's a couple things you can do with this. The nice part about having folders is it allows you to kind of do bulk actions in the app or on the web map here. Let's say I have deer waypoints all over the place, but it's turkey season right now. I don't really care about all of my deer spots. I just want to clear up my map so that I can see the waypoints that I need right now. What I can do is I can click this button that says hide folder on map. Now you see they're gone from my map. They all have this icon with the crossed out eye. Okay, so they're not deleted from my account. They're all still there. They're just not drawing on my map right now. Can declutter it a little bit. That's a common thing we hear from a lot of folks. Man, I've got so many waypoints, it's cluttering up my map. There's a lot of ways to resolve that. The best way, in my opinion, is to put things into folders and then hide them. You can bring them back and send them away as often as you want. The other nice part about using folders is if I want to share this with somebody, I can share the folder with all of those waypoints. So if you're the person in charge of setting up your whitetail property, you're the person that does all the work, setting up stands and doing food plots and all of that, you can share that folder to all the freeloaders that aren't out there with you on the weekend doing the work, right? So instead of sharing one at a time, once they're in a folder, it lets you share them real quick and easily with those other folks. Let's say you have a bunch of waypoints already marked that aren't in a folder. I'm gonna show you what to do there. I'm gonna go over to my tablet so I can show you what it looks like over there. Just give me one moment to pull that up. There's always a little bit of lag with Zoom there, so apologies for that. So here is kind of a mock-up of a deer hunting spot that I found here, just a random spot in Minnesota I placed here. So down towards the bottom, I've got that white tent. That's where camp is. All of the brown markups are my tree stands. All of the red markups are places where I've harvested deer, where I blood trailed them to and found them. And all of the green markups are sign. So another kind of color coding system that you can use here. None of these waypoints are in a folder right now. So what I can do is I can tap on them. I just tapped on that waypoint I had for a big rub that I found. Along the bottom, I'm going to tap Add to Folder. I'm going to tap Add to Folder one more time. And I don't want to use any of these folders. Okay, I want to make a specific one because this is a property in Minnesota. So I'm going to tap this far left icon, this plus sign. And I'm going to name it Minnesota Deer Camp. And I'm going to hit Save. So that's how easy it is to make a new folder and to add a waypoint to it. You can see when I pull up this menu, it shows the folder that it's in. I could add this to another folder if I want. I could add this to my deer folder. Okay, they can be in more than one folder. That's especially useful if you have a bunch of waypoints, if you do like Jack does, and you have all your deer spots in one folder, but you don't want to share all of your deer spots with your buddy. Maybe you're doing a weekend hunt, you're going out to one area, you just want to share those waypoints with them so that you're giving up, not all of your secrets. You're just showing them the pertinent information. You can spin up a folder real quick, have, Joe and Jack's hunt, and send just those waypoints. So that's another way, you can share waypoints without sharing everything. As far as I know, there's not a limit to the amount of folders a waypoint can be in. But you might look at this and say, Jack, that's a little bit tedious to add waypoints one at a time to a folder. I agree. There's a better way to do it. So if I tap on a waypoint, I'm going to tap on this tent icon here. I'm going to tap Add to Folder. Now you see kind of above where it says Select Content there, I can tap Select All in Frame. Now you notice all of those waypoints are highlighted. They got that white ring around them. I can hit Add to Folder, and I can hit Add to Minnesota Deer Camp. So they're all in there. So if I go into my content, go to Minnesota Deer Camp, I've got 13 different waypoints in there, right? And they're all listed there. I can see the different colors, the names, the icons. So that's a quick way to do it. So if you're tuning into this, I'm guessing many of you already have a whole pile of waypoints on your map. And you can do this on the web map as well. In fact, I think it is a little bit faster and easier to do it on that big screen there. Method's the same. That's my recommendation for if you haven't made folders before or maybe haven't used them very much, go in, and what I would do first is decide, what do I want for folders? Okay, and just create them. They'll all be empty to start. That's fine. So if you're like Jack, you might create a bear folder, a turkey folder, a waterfowl folder, a deer folder, etc. And then once you have them all created, then go in and put those into your different folders. Another way to do this, let's say you have a whole bunch of waypoints that are in the same area, but it's a bunch of different species on top of each other. You grouse hunt where you deer hunt. You want to have a grouse folder and a deer folder, but you don't want them in the same, so that Select All in Frame doesn't necessarily work for you. You can also tap on a waypoint, hit Add to Folder, And right now I'm just tapping on waypoints with my finger. You see that blind got highlighted, the saddle got highlighted. You can also do it individually and just tap on the ones you want to add and then hit add to folder. Okay, so there's kind of the bulk way to do it, and then there's the kind of one at a time way to bring them all into your folder there. I'm just going to cancel this right now. There we are. The other thing I want to show is how to highlight a property. So I have this, just a random property in Iowa. Let me turn on my Iowa layers so you can get a better look at it. So you see I have what's essentially an area shape surrounding this Iowa property. So this is a nice, easy way to highlight private parcels. This doesn't work on public, just private parcels right now. Okay, so this is random spot in Iowa. Again, I've never been here, just picked a nice looking piece of property here that, being as it's kind of southern Iowa, pretty good chance it probably has deer on it. What's nice with our properties kind of feature here, and this is a pretty new feature, we're still working on building out some of the bells and whistles here. But if you're primarily hunting private land and maybe you're hunting just one parcel, maybe you're hunting a few different ones, it allows you to kind of highlight those areas. We've had a lot of people ask over the years, man, I want to be able to just highlight properties where I have permission to hunt. So one way you can do that, I'm just going to move to another property that's not adjacent. Let's say this PBE Farmland Holdings LLC. Let's say I get access to hunt this property and I want to highlight it so that I can more easily find it in the future and I can zoom right to this. If I tap on this property, holy smokes, they actually go across the road there too. So I just tapped on the property. Down along the bottom, there's that orange button that says add to folder. I'm going to tap that. And I'm going to create a new folder. So I'm just going to name this one test folder for the purposes of this class. And hit save. Now it automatically draws that perimeter line around that whole property. So I've got it, I've got a couple of them saved here. It's really easy to zoom in and find the areas that I want. If I close out of this, I go back to my content. Now I have this test folder where it's everything in this property. Now when I start marking it up and I start adding waypoints for my deer sign, for my tree stands, maybe for my entry and exit routes, food plots, what have you, I can add them to this folder, and then everything that pertains to this property is in one spot. For example, you can see this one right here. I named this folder Iowa Property. Okay, so I have Grandpa's Blind, Katie's Stand, Mike's Stand, the house. I have some different areas for food plots that I have saved. And of course, the parcel itself is an area shape. That's how the app treats it, like it was if you were to just draw an area shape around the property. We do it automatically for you. You certainly could do it manually if you wanted. But everything is in there. So when I want to say, I'm Jack, I'm here in Missoula, Montana, right? But I want to take a look at the Iowa property. Maybe I've been putting in for Iowa tags and I've got some I've got my tag this year. I don't think the drawing has happened yet, but let's pretend it did. And I want to just get there really quickly. All I have to do is tap on my content, tap Iowa property, and there I am. Now I can do my scouting. I can place my waypoints on, hey, we should put a stand here. Hey, we should dig a water hole in this spot. Let's put a food plot over here. Let's do some hinge cutting. Whatever. I can do all that just quick and easily. Add them to my Iowa property folder. Then maybe, I've got a cousin. Let's say this is my cousin's farm, lives in Iowa. I can send it to them and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? What are you seeing on the ground? Right? Kind of a little bit of an easier way to collaborate. I feel like I went through that pretty fast, but that kind of is the nuts and bolts of how to customize your waypoints to at a glance, use your colors to tell really quickly what you're looking at. That's the first thing. Change the icons, change the names, and then group them into folders. And again, the reason you put them into folders, there's a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, for me, I think personally, the biggest reason to put things into folders is so that you can clear up your map so that you only are looking at the pertinent information. If you group all your folders, especially if you hunt a lot in one area and you only want to look at certain information in one area. For example, my personal one, like I said, in western Montana, I hunt a lot of different animals around Missoula where I live. I don't really care about my elk spots right now because it's June or it's May. I jumped ahead a month already. It's May. I'm chasing bears right now. That's the only folder I have turned on. I've turned the rest of them off. If I have a buddy coming out hunting, let's say, and I'm maybe not able to hunt with him every night. I have to work some nights. Maybe I have a Masterclass. I can share my bear folder with him and say, hey, here's all my spots. Go ahead, hunt some of these. Maybe I just send him 5 glassing spots. Say, hey, check out one of these spots while I'm at work, hosting a Masterclass and can't hunt with you tonight. So sharing, being able to kind of keep track of all of your waypoints, and of course, being able to turn things off and on as you need them, I think are kind of the big reasons why you'd use folders. I'm going to stop sharing here. We're going to get into our Q&A and our giveaway. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff, a lot of questions that I didn't adequately cover. So the first thing I'm going to do, give me 1 second to share the giveaway link. All right. So in the chat right now, I'm going to post the giveaway link. We're giving away some onX Hunt t-shirts here, our skinning shed t-shirts. Entries are open until midnight tonight, so if you're watching this video afterwards, I'm sorry the giveaway has closed, but we do these at just about every class, so you can, sign up to attend a future one, and we're giving away some cool prizes. I will mention next week from tonight, May 14th, we're doing a spring bear hunting masterclass. Our friends at Weatherby and Peak 44 are giving away a Weatherby Model 307 rifle and a Peak 44 tripod. So might be something you're interested in. Attend the class, get entered to win that, and you might have yourself a new hunting rifle and tripod for this year. Let me pull up the Q&A here. Question about, Kurt asked, what is a more accurate position of the icon? Mark my location or add a waypoint? So it really depends on your goals there, Kurt. So when you're marking waypoints, there's a couple different ways you can do it in the app. If you hit mark my location, that's going to put the waypoint right where you are standing, wherever your phone or tablet, where the GPS location is saying you are, it'll put the waypoint there. If you hit add waypoint, that allows you to manually place that waypoint. So the way I look at it, Kurt, is I use mark my location when I need to mark something out in the field for where I am standing. So when I park the truck, I hit mark my location, change the icon to the truck or to the parking icon, change the color, give it a name, right? If I find an elk wallow, I want to save it, or I flush a pheasant, I might want to mark that. Add a waypoint, I think of as marking a spot where I'm not at. So if I'm trying to get to a distant target, or let's say I see an elk across a canyon and it's in the only opening in the timber. It's in a nice grassy park. I might put a waypoint on that, and then I can tell, I can use my go to waypoint feature to see how far away it is, or I can use that as a reference for planning a stock to that, because maybe I have to go around 1.5 miles to make sure that the wind is right or something, but at least I have that reference point on the map there. I think what you might be getting at here is sometimes your location dot will move a little bit on the map depending on the strength of your GPS receiver in your phone and the GPS signal. If you're finding that it's off a little bit, which civilian GPSs aren't as accurate, the military's got the good stuff. We're limited to kind of what they let us have. If you're finding that it is off a little bit, you can always go back and edit a waypoint. Doesn't matter how you placed it if you want to really fine tune it. Or you can just use that add waypoint and put it, use the aerial imagery to find it and put it right where you want it. Let's see, Garrett asked, is there a way to delete duplicates from folders? Let me pull up my map here. I can show you what that looks like. So the way to delete something from a folder is relatively simple. I'll pull it up on mobile here because that's what most people use. I get out a zoom and into my map. So if you want to delete something from a folder, I'm gonna go into my content. I'm gonna go into this Iowa property folder because that's where we are. And I have all these waypoints here. Let's say one of these was placed by mistake or is no longer applicable. I'm gonna tap on Jack's stand, tap on those 3 dots on the right-hand side. So those ellipses, that's the wrong button. We'll start over. My content, Iowa property. I wanna get rid of Jack's stand. Tap on those ellipses, those 3 dots. Now I can hit remove from folder and it's gone. There's not a great way to do like a mass removal from folders right now. So do be careful that you're not adding a bunch of duplicates. What you could do if you have way too many duplicates in a folder, you could delete the folder entirely and start over. Not an optimal situation. If you have just a few duplicates, just go in and tap those ellipses and do it one at a time. Let's see, is there a way, Garrett also asked, is there a way to work with or save only visible pins when selecting all in screen? So I think what you mean is if you're adding things to a folder and you want you have some that are hidden, but they are within the screen, you don't want to add those to a folder. Right now, there's not a great way to do that, Garrett. So if you have, if I go back to my personal example, I have some grouse spots and some deer spots. They're in the same general area. I have my grouse folder hidden. If I select all in screen, it will still, any waypoint that's within the bounds of my screen, whether they're hidden or not, they will show up when you select all. We're working to correct that because I know how that's confusing. I got confused with it myself because I'm like, man, these aren't on my screen, right? But they would be there if they were showing. So right now, Garrett, to answer that question, there's not. Hopefully in the future, we can iron that kink out a little bit. Sal asked, is most of this information applies to only elite members? This information, as far as using folders, applies to everybody. You don't have to be elite to utilize folders and to customize your waypoints. You just have to have a paid membership, whether it's premium or elite. Alan asked, is it possible to make subfolders? It's not. We just have folders right now. That may be something coming down the line. Probably not anytime super soon, but we might be able to make, like a deer folder and then have your different properties or different years underneath that. Right now, just folders as you see them. Alan asked, is it possible to add custom icons? He talked about for quail, all the different species of quail. We don't have the ability to do custom icons. Believe it or not, the vast majority of onX users never use anything more than the red X. So it's kind of that balancing act of trying to build features that people use versus, kind of a power user. It sounds like you are, Alan, talking about, having bobwhite quail, blues, Montezuma gambles, etc. What I would maybe do in that instance, Alan, if you're hunting, you have a bunch of different quail, that might be a time to use different colors, and have each quail species be a different color. That would be maybe my recommendation until we can get more, I've been asking for it for grouse. We don't even have a grouse icon. We've got that upland one. I'm a grouse nut. We've got 3 species of grouse in western Montana and a couple more out east. So it's something that we do kind of work on. We do add icons from time to time. So definitely something we're looking to do in the future while also balancing, not making the app too complex for people. We already have, I think, 90 waypoint icons. At a certain point, it gets overwhelming, but I definitely see the use for that. Ken asked, is it possible to delete a waypoint someone else has shared with me when I'm done with that waypoint? I don't want to hide the waypoint. I don't want to just hide the waypoint. I want to delete it. Yes, I just did this today on my personal account. If you have a waypoint somebody shared with you, the only thing you can do with it is hide it or delete it. You can't edit it because it's their waypoint. But if you don't want it on your map anymore, tap on that waypoint. There'll be a button down below that says delete. You can delete it that way. Nicholas asked, sharing folders works with all phones. Yes, it does. So as long as somebody's phone is capable of running the onX Hunt app, they are capable of receiving a share. So it's just like sharing a regular waypoint with them. Double check and make sure they are on the most updated version of the app. We have seen issues in the past where somebody maybe hasn't updated their onX app in a year, 2 years. I've seen 3, 4 even, right? Where they downloaded the app and haven't updated it since. They do need to be on a relatively new version of the app so that there's compatibility there. But as long as they are able to run onX on their phone, they're able to receive a share. Can you make tracking routes appear in different colors? You can once it's saved. So you can go in and change the color of a track. I don't have any saved on this account right now, unfortunately, because it's a test account, doesn't leave the office. But the tracker is always going to be like that light blue color while you're tracking. That can't be changed at this time. But once you save a track, then you can change the color. It's the same as changing a waypoint color. You just tap on it or click on it if you're on a web map. Then that'll allow you to choose from the available colors. Robert asked, can you put polygons in folders? Yes, you can. Area shapes, lines, tracks, waypoints can all be put into folders. The process is the same as I just demoed with the waypoints there. Couple questions about subfolders. Those are great questions, folks. I mentioned earlier. We don't have subfolders right now, but it's pretty apparent that a lot of folks would like to use subfolders. So I will definitely be mentioning that to our engineering team so that they can, begin looking at what that might look like and what the work looks like to build that. John asked, will the highlight property feature become available for public land? I'm not able to say 100%, John. I believe so. Right now, it was kind of built for private land hunters as a way to keep track of everything. But I do believe we are building that out so that, especially if you hunt private land that's adjacent to public, something like that, where you'll be able to encompass a property or a hunt area and include multiple properties in one if you want, or private and public. Let's see. Spencer asked tips for public land organizing. So I'm primarily a public land hunter, especially in Montana. The only private land I hunt are our block management areas, which are our walk-ins. Otherwise, it's pretty much all public. So what I do then, Spencer, is I just make a regular folder, and I will group everything into a folder that way. So like I said, I do mine by species. Some folks who hunt public here do it by year. If it's a kind of a specific area, like if you're hunting up, No Tellum Creek, and you want just a folder for that, create a folder for that, and put all your markups into that folder. That's my best advice right now, Spencer. Let's see. Peter asked, when talking about sending that Iowa property folder to someone, how are you sending the information? So when you click share, whether it's on a waypoint or on a folder, it'll give you a couple of options for sharing. Essentially what you're doing is you're texting a link to somebody. So the most common way to share is via text message. You could do it via email. You could do it via Facebook Messenger. Kind of any way that you would send texts to somebody, and I don't mean text like a text message, but like writing, right? Any way you would send a message to somebody, you can share. Most commonly, people are going to text them. So let's say I share it with my cousin. He pulls it up on his phone. There'll be a link. He'll click on it. It will open up his onX app and ask if he wants to add that folder to his map. He can say yes or no. You can do it by email. You can do it, Slack. If we do that at work sometimes. We use Slack for our inter-office messaging. Those are kind of the most common ways. Most people do it via text. Gabe asks, does the highlight property work in backcountry and off-road apps? I believe that is just for hunt right now, Gabe. Matthew asked, is there an app performance benefit to organizing into smaller folders, hence displaying smaller amounts of waypoints? I don't know that we've actually tested that. You might see if you have a lot of waypoints, like we're talking in the thousands, you might see an improvement by hiding a bunch of them so that it doesn't have to draw all of those on the map. I would suspect, without testing it myself, I would suspect the improvement would likely not be super large, but if you are running into, man, I got a ton of waypoints, and especially it's tracks. Tracks, as you can imagine, are more complex data than waypoint because it's many thousands of points strung together. If you have a lot of those, you might see some benefit from hiding the ones that you don't need. Jamie asks, how do we delete waypoints? Probably the easiest way, I'll pull it up one more time here. So anything you want to do with a waypoint that's placed on your map, whether you want to edit it, share it, delete it, it all starts with selecting that waypoint. Okay, so I've got my map pulled up here. Let's say I want to delete this tree stand waypoint. Okay, I've tapped on it. I have it selected. I'm going to tap edit, and then I'm going to tap that delete button. It's going to ask me to confirm. Now it's gone. That's one way to delete it. You could also go into your content folder. So if I back up, I'm going to tap on my content. I'll go into waypoints. Let's say I want to delete this Grandpa's Blind waypoint. I can tap on it there and delete it. I could also do this. I could go down to Grandpa's Blind, tap those three dots. My tablet is futzing out because it's right on the corner of my screen and the case doesn't let me tap, but you'd be able to tap on those three dots and delete it there as well. if you didn't have a large case and screen protector that kind of partially covers the edge of your screen there, like I do. Let's see. Albert asked, delete a folder. Way to do that is go into my content, select a folder. I'm gonna go into this test folder, and there's a big red button down there at the bottom that says delete folder, and it's deleted. Don asked, can you access folders offline? Yep, all of your markups that you have saved on your account work whether you're online or offline. Let's see. We got quite a few questions in there. There's still 40 some questions in there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer all of them. We'll do a couple more, and then we'll shut it down for the night. Couple questions on, are there more colors to choose from? There's not. What you see here is what we have available. We've got those different colors. That's another question that's come up recently. Might be something we do in the future, but like I mentioned, the vast majority of onX Hunt users never change those colors. So we try to build features that are gonna, be useful to the most amount of people. So right now, there's just not enough people that are using all the different colors. I hear you. I could definitely utilize a couple different colors. I have some that I'm reusing for multiple different things. But right now, those colors that you see on my screen there are what you've got available. Let's see. Can we share when offline? Good question. There is a way to share markups when you're offline. I'm going to tap on this stand. Let's say I want to share it with somebody and I don't have service. I'm going to tap the share button. I have two options for sharing a waypoint. Share with a link, which is what I talked about a few minutes ago, text message, email, etc. Or there is share nearby. Now this is basically, if you're an iOS user, you might be familiar with airdropping. You're basically airdropping that waypoint to somebody or that folder to somebody. It is device specific. So airdrop only works iOS to iOS. Android has their kind of own version. I'm not an Android user. The name escapes me right now. But you can share that Android to Android or iOS to iOS with somebody who's nearby. So is it going to work if they're a mile away? No, it's not. The phones have to be close enough to have that Bluetooth connection. So whatever kind of the Bluetooth range is, probably, I don't even want to speculate. I know I have like a Bluetooth speaker at home and I can be 30 feet from it and it works 40 feet, right? You're going to want to be close to each other to be able to share that. Without there being some sort of internet service, there's no way to share over longer distances because your phones aren't able to connect, right? onX isn't able to overcome that. So that's the way you can share while offline, as long as you're in relatively close proximity to each other. All right. So we've got a few questions here that are about offline maps or other things. Going to try to stick with kind of the markup type features here in the folders. Let's see. Angus asked, I have a huge amount of data and will occasionally have data unintentionally bleed from one folder to another. Have you ever seen this before? I have not. There should be no way that content moves to another folder without you doing it. What could happen that I have seen is if you use that, when I demonstrated the select all in frame, if you had some that were hidden and you still selected that all that were in the screen, even if they were hidden, they would get added to a folder. That would be my first guess as to what's happening. But otherwise, if you do see this happen again, Angus, try to gather as much info as you can about when you noticed it happening or if it was after a certain action, and then send us an email to help@onxmaps.com. That's our customer support email. They would be able to take a look into your account and kind of use some other programs to see what might be going on, if there's some sort of bug or something like that. All right, I'll try to find one more here. A lot of good questions in here. Again, I'm not answering your questions, just trying to stay on topic with the folders and things like that. Nick asked, can you send partial folders, i.e. a few waypoints inside a deer folder instead of sending all your secret spots? What I would do in that case, Nick, is create a separate folder just for sharing. So if you have a deer folder and you have a buddy, let's call him John, and you want to send some of your deer spots to John, but not all of them, I would create a folder that says, it's like John's folder. Add the waypoints I want to send to John in that folder, and then just send that one. That would be, off the top of my head, that's probably the best way to get around that. All right, last question here. Warren asked, are waypoints established through GPS signals or from cell tower triangulation? It's through GPS. You're able to mark waypoints even when you don't have cell service, and it does that through the GPS receiver in your phone, the same way that it's able to show your blue dot, that location on the map there. All right, I'm gonna post in the chat the giveaway link one more time. If you weren't able to get entered, go ahead and click on that. I will send an email out to all the winners tomorrow. Gonna pick 10 of you. I'll shoot you an email from my onX Maps email account, so take a look for that. That'll come sometime mid to late morning. Then we'll get those shirts sent out to everybody. If you do have other questions, do check out our other master classes. If this was a little bit above, your current skill level with onX, we do a monthly 101. We do those pretty much every month. That might be a great starting point. You can also take a look at the onX Hunt YouTube channel. If you go into playlists, there's an onX Hunt Masterclass playlist. I think we've got over 100 different classes in there. Everything from 101s, previous deep dives, to specific topics like scouting for geese, scouting for elk calling, how to pack out meat, things like that. So take a look at those. And again, thanks everybody for joining us. We hope to see you on a future class and hope you have a good evening.